if someone kicks down your front door in the middle of the night, it is, incredibly obvious what is happening, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the wood splinters, the alarm system starts blaring, the dog is going crazy. Your brain instantly recognizes a threat.
Right. Your entire biological defense system is built for exactly that kind of acute, highly visible threat.
Exactly. It floods your body with adrenaline,
Ah.
and it tells you to either fight or run.
Yeah, you don't even have to think about it. Your autonomic nervous system just takes over to protect you.
It's a loud, undeniable, aggressive intrusion.
Yeah.
But imagine if instead of a burglar, you have termites.
Ooh, yeah. That is a very different situation.
Right. There is no shattered glass. There are no sirens. Just a very quiet, almost microscopic chewing happening behind the drywall.
Day after day, week after week.
And you just go about your life thinking everything is completely fine. You don't even realize there's a problem until one day you lean against a door frame and the wood just crumbles under your hand.
Wow, yeah.
The entire foundation has been hollowed out, and you never heard a single thing.
That imagery of the foundation slowly being eaten away from the inside, that is the absolute perfect metaphor for what we are exploring today.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at the termites, not the burglars.
Exactly.
We are exploring the invisible, silent ways that power and control creep into our most intimate relationships. And to do this, we're pulling from the work of Marcus Sieg.
Right, he's the founder of an organization called NAVORES.
And he's the author of the text we're looking at today, which is USPOD 09, How Control Creeps into Relationships, which is based on his book, Talking Won't Fix It.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read.
Oh, and a quick piece of linguistic trivia for you listening. I was looking into the roots of those names, and Marcus, Sieg, and NAVORES are actually all German terms.
Oh, wait, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Sieg literally translates to victory.
Oh, wow.
Right, which is an incredibly fitting, almost chilling undercurrent when you're diving into subconscious power dynamics and control.
Yeah, the linguistic background definitely sets a great tone for this. And, what makes Sieg's work so compelling, and really the entire reason we wanted to do this deep dive, is the totally unique angle he takes. Because when society talks about control in relationships, we almost exclusively filter it through the lens of psychology.
Right. We look for the villain.
Exactly. We talk about childhood trauma or, narcissistic personality traits.
Yeah, or like conscious malicious manipulation.
Right.
We assume the controlling person is sitting in a swivel chair, stroking a white cat, plotting how to dominate their partner.
Right. We assume intent. We assume they know exactly what they're doing.
But they don't always, do they?
No, not at all. And this work completely bypasses that psychological intent-driven framework. It focuses purely on human biology.
Okay, biology.
Yeah, it looks at how our behavior, our communication, and our interaction are shaped at a fundamental neurological level.
Wow.
It examines the mechanical steps of how a dynamic of absolute control takes root without either person necessarily realizing what is happening.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the very first point made here feels completely counterintuitive to how we are taught to spot red flags. Control almost never starts with a clear decision or an open declaration.
Right. Nobody sits down at the kitchen table on a random Tuesday, pours a cup of coffee, and announces, "From now on, I am going to be in charge of your reality and you will defer to me."
Yeah, I mean, it does not begin with an ultimatum.
No, because an ultimatum is the burglar kicking down the door.
Exactly.
If a partner did that, your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for processing fear and threats, it would light up like a Christmas tree.
Your shields would go right up.
Exactly. So instead of an attack, the dynamic begins with a very slow, subtle shifting of responsibility.
It starts when one partner begins gently guiding conversations.
Right. They start taking the liberty of interpreting situations for the both of you. Or they subtly define what the correct view of an event is.
It's like, okay, think about being a passenger in a car. You're just sitting there enjoying the scenery.
Yeah.
Then maybe you casually reach over and adjust the GPS because you noticed a slightly faster route.
Yeah.
The driver doesn't mind, it's helpful.
Right, just being helpful.
But then a little while later, you mention that they're braking a bit late for the upcoming turn, and then you point out a pothole they should avoid.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Before you know it, you are effectively driving the car from the passenger seat.
Yeah.
You haven't literally grabbed the steering wheel, but your input is dictating every single micro movement the actual driver makes.
Yeah, that is such a good way to put it.
And to the driver, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like you are just offering full curiosity.
And what's fascinating here is the biological genius of this mechanism is actually terrifying.
Yeah, why is that?
Because when control masquerades as helpful curiosity or just an innocent attempt to clarify things, it entirely bypasses the brain's threat detection system.
Yeah.
Imagine you are standing in your kitchen. You're telling a story about a frustrating interaction you had at work. If your partner says, "You're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about," you recognize the aggression immediately.
Right, that's the burglar.
Exactly. But if your partner tilts their head and says softly, "Wait, are you sure that's what your boss meant? Because knowing them, I think you might be misinterpreting the tone."
Oh, wow. Yeah, your brain doesn't register a threat there.
Yep.
Your brain registers a puzzle. It thinks, oh, there's a discrepancy in the data here. Let's solve this together.
Exactly. Your prefrontal cortex engages to solve the puzzle, and your defensive guard drops completely.
Because you lean into the clarification.
Right. These small shifts seem entirely harmless at first. A statement is commented on, a memory is questioned, an experience is double-checked.
The controlling partner doesn't appear to be dominating the space. They appear to be fact-checking for the sake of mutual accuracy.
Yes. But every single time this happens, the defensive mechanisms remain dormant, and the controlled partner yields a microscopic fraction of their autonomy.
It's the ultimate Trojan horse.
It really is.
They wheel this wooden horse of innocent curiosity right through the gates of your boundaries. And because it looks like a gift, the gift of clarity or helpfulness, you hold the doors open for them yourself.
That's beautifully said. And once that Trojan horse is inside the gates, the controlling partner begins to set up a brand new infrastructure.
Right. And they do this by taking over the language of the relationship. They begin to redefine reality itself.
Yeah, and the mutation of the conversation is so gradual. It starts with one partner habitually finishing the other's sentences. Then it evolves into actively reinterpreting statements. You'll hear phrases like, "what you really mean is," or "what you're actually trying to say is."
Yeah, they correct how things are described. There's a crucial quote from the source here that really stuck with me. You are still speaking, but you are no longer deciding what the conversation is about.
Right. One person tells the story, but the other adjusts the narrative.
The person who defines what is true ultimately defines what counts as reality.
Exactly. One person is providing the raw audio. The other person is sitting at the mixing board.
Yeah.
They're adjusting the levels, cutting out the parts they don't agree with, and mastering the final track.
Okay, I need to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because if you are listening to this, you might be thinking of your own relationship. In almost any long-term partnership, someone is naturally the storyteller, and the other person is, like, the detail-oriented fact-checker.
Right, of course.
Like, I am notoriously terrible with timelines. When I tell a story, my partner constantly jumps in and say, "No, it was Tuesday, not Wednesday," or "It was the blue car, not the red one."
Yeah.
So, is that a hostile takeover of my reality? How do we distinguish between a natural personality quirk and this creeping biological control?
That's a great question. We have to look at the difference between correcting data and usurping authority.
Okay, data versus authority.
Yeah. In a healthy dynamic where one person is just naturally better with details, the correction is strictly about the data points. They fix the day of the week, but the emotional core of the narrative, your frustration, your joy, your interpretation of the event, that still belongs entirely to you.
Right. Your perspective is respected, even if your timeline is flawed.
Exactly.
The data is adjusted, but my feelings aren't up for debate.
Yes. But in the creeping control dynamic, it is never just about the data. It is about authority.
How so?
You aren't just corrected on the date. You are corrected on your perception. You are told that you didn't actually feel what you felt or that your reaction was disproportionate.
Oh, wow.
Over time, the foundational roles rigidly shift. One person is constantly in the position of explaining and instructing, while the other is forced into a position of constantly justifying themselves.
Let me push back on this even further, because I feel like the exhaustion of modern life plays a huge role here. What if I am just incredibly burned out from work? What if I actually want my partner to step in and take the wheel? Sometimes it is a massive relief when someone says, "Don't worry about it, I'll handle the dinner plans, I'll handle the schedule." At what point does taking things off my plate cross the line into controlling my reality?
That is the greasiest part of the entire slope.
Yeah.
Relieving a burden is a temporary action. It is a gift given when the burdened person requests or welcomes it.
Right.
But control is a permanent structural shift where you no longer have the option to take the plate back. It stops being about easing your cognitive load and starts being about establishing a hierarchy.
And the tone of the conversation is the dead giveaway, isn't it? It isn't a tone of partnership. It's a tone of superiority.
Yes. The partner is treated as if they simply need the world explained to them. Like, you're just not seeing this clearly. Let me walk you through it.
Yeah.
And think about the biological energy cost of this. Having to constantly justify your own perception of reality is incredibly draining.
I can imagine.
It causes profound ego depletion. Your willpower is a finite resource. And if you have to spend it every single day just to defend the basic premise that your feelings are valid, you will eventually run out of gas.
You just stop fighting. Not because you agree with them, but because you literally do not have the caloric energy in your brain to mount another defense over something as simple as how a conversation went.
Exactly. The controlled partner starts questioning their own perception. Not because their memory is actually failing, but because it is relentlessly, exhaustingly corrected by someone acting as the ultimate authority.
So if reality is constantly being rewritten by one person and the other is trapped in this exhausting loop of justification, the actual day-to-day structure of the relationship undergoes a massive transformation.
And we see this most clearly in how decisions are made.
Right. The illusion of partnership is maintained, but the mechanics of decision-making completely shift. Larger topics start being decided alone by the controlling partner.
Yes. They might not hide the decision from you, but the nature of the communication changes from collaboration to notification.
You are informed, but you are not involved.
Exactly.
It's the difference between sitting down and saying, hey, where should we go for the holidays this year? Let's look at some options. Versus, I found a great cabin for the holidays. I went ahead and booked it. It's going to be great.
Right. Important choices are made beforehand.
Yes.
Your participation as the controlled partner is then relegated to minor, inconsequential matters.
It's the illusion of choice. You get to pick the color of the napkins for the dinner party, but the guest list, the menu, and the date were all decided without you. You feel like you're participating, but you're just coloring inside the lines that someone else drew.
Exactly.
And what happens when the control partner finally notices this pattern? Say the fog lifts for a second, and they say, wait a minute, why didn't we discuss buying that car before you signed the papers?
Well, a clear, open discussion about the actual event rarely follows.
Right.
The controlling partner immediately relies on minimization and redirection. They will say things like, you're exaggerating the issue, or you're completely misunderstanding my intentions. I was just trying to take something off your plate.
Or I'm just trying to do what's best for us.
Exactly. They pivot the conversation away from the action they took and turn it into a critique of how the partner is reacting to the action.
That's wild. Suddenly we aren't talking about the car you bought. We're talking about my irrational anxiety over the car you bought.
Right. The objection itself is dismissed. The actual valid concern is never addressed. And this is what leads to the ultimate structural fallout, a state of profound withdrawal.
The control partner pulls back.
Yes. But it is crucial to understand that they do not withdraw because they stop caring about the relationship.
They withdraw because survival demands it.
Exactly.
I mean, every single discussion requires a monumental amount of energy. Every boundary you try to set is interrogated. Every attempt to clarify your own emotions just fades out into the ether, swallowed by their reinterpretation.
It is a systemic biological depletion of your willpower.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This fundamentally changes how we should evaluate relationship health. Because from the outside looking in, this kind of relationship often appears incredibly calm. There are very few visible arguments. There's no shattered glass, no loud sirens.
Right.
This is the part that hit me the hardest. As a society, we constantly look at those couples and we envy them. We think, wow, look at them. They never fight. They never raise their voices. They must have it all figured out.
Yeah, we do.
But this deep dive completely shatters that illusion.
Yeah.
It forces you to realize that absolute silence might not be the sound of harmony. It might be the sound of total crushing exhaustion.
That is so powerful because the calm doesn't come from stability. The calm doesn't come from mutual respect or excellent communication.
Right.
The calm comes from adaptation. It is the result of a deep structural imbalance where one person has simply given up trying to assert their reality because the biological cost of doing so is just too high.
The termites have finished their work. The house is still standing. The paint looks fine from the street. but the inside is entirely hollow. If you push on the wall, it crumbles.
And this is why quiet power is the most dangerous kind of power.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't arrive as a loud attack, because there are no slammed doors or shouting matches. It is almost always recognized far too late.
By the time the controlled partner realizes what has happened, the dynamic is deeply embedded in the very language, the daily routines, and the neural pathways of their life together.
It's woven into the fabric of everything they do. And, this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships either.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You see this dynamic in workplaces with a boss who constantly tweaks your ideas until they are entirely their own.
Yes.
You see it in friendships or with parents who disguise their control as just wanting to help you make the right choice. The grief of losing your voice in a relationship is profound, especially when you can't point to a single explosive moment where it was taken from you.
Right. And really, the core takeaway from Marcus Sieg's work is a profound redefinition of when control actually begins.
Okay, so what does this all mean?
Well, control is fundamentally established the very moment that participation becomes decoration.
Participation becomes decoration. Wow. Let's pause on that phrase.
It's a heavy one.
Think about the reality of that. Your presence is required to make the picture look complete to the outside world. They need you sitting in the passenger seat to call it a road trip. But your input is fundamentally cosmetic.
Exactly.
You are a prop in a play that someone else is directing.
It happens the moment decisions are merely presented to you rather than created together with you. And the most terrifying part is that this often happens not because someone is an intentionally malicious mastermind plotting your demise, but simply because power has been allowed to become quiet, the threat detection system was bypassed, and the language was slowly rewritten.
Participation becomes decoration. That is a metric we can all use to evaluate the quiet dynamics in our own lives. It forces you to look at your interactions and ask, am I a co-author of my relationship story? Or am I just a proofreader who only gets to fix the typos while someone else writes the chapters?
It really requires us to pay close attention to the subtle shifts. Who is naturally leading the conversation, and more importantly, who is constantly being asked to justify their reality.
Right.
If you find yourself frequently exhausted after a simple conversation because you had to defend your own memory or your own feelings, you are likely dealing with a termite problem.
Which brings me to a final, lingering thought I want to leave you with today. We have spent this entire deep dive looking outward. We've been analyzing how to spot if someone is quietly controlling us. We've been watching for the signs of the linguistic takeover, the helpful corrections, the subtle shifting of decisions where we are informed rather than involved. But because this biological mechanism works entirely through seemingly harmless curiosity and a desire to fix things, is it possible that we might occasionally be the ones slowly taking control of our partners without even realizing we are doing it?
Oh, man. That is the ultimate uncomfortable mirror to hold up.
Right.
If control rarely begins with a conscious decision to dominate, then none of us are immune to accidentally slipping into it. It is incredibly easy to reach over and grab the wheel simply because we think we know the better route, convincing ourselves that we're just being helpful.
We convince ourselves we are easing their burden, but we are actually erasing their autonomy.
It's a sobering thought.
It's a heavy thought, but an absolutely essential one. You have to check the foundation of your house from time to time, even if the alarm hasn't gone off. Make sure you aren't ignoring the termites and make sure you aren't the termite yourself.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions. Keep examining those quiet spaces in your conversations, and we'll catch you next time.